I'm not sure where to start, but I guess I should begin with what seems like a lifetime of happiness that came crashing down in a matter of days. My name is David, and I used to think I had a perfect life with my wife, Jessica. We met in college, fell in love, and by the time we were both in our late 20s, we had built a comfortable life together in a quaint little neighborhood in Portland. I thought we were happy, but looking back, I can see the hints of trouble that were lurking beneath the surface. Jessica was always the social butterfly. She thrived on attention and made friends easily. It was part of what drew me to her in the first place. But over the last year or so, I noticed subtle changes. She'd get home late from supposed work dinners. Her texts started to come with a hint of secrecy. At first, I brushed it off. I mean, it's not unusual for someone to be busy or stressed at work, right? But deep down, I was starting to feel a nagging sense of doubt. The breaking point came one Thursday evening. I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone when I heard her laugh. But it wasn't the kind of laugh she reserved for me. It was something different, more vibrant, more alive. I glanced at the clock. It was already past 10. She was supposed to be home by 7 after a meeting. My gut twisted. I picked up my phone to text her, but before I could hit send, I saw her pull into the driveway. When she walked through the door, I caught a whiff of a scent that wasn't hers. It was something musky and smoky, like a campfire. I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I waited, watching as she flitted around the house, her cheeks flushed and her smile too wide. It was as if she was trying to convince me that everything was perfectly normal. But later that night, when she fell asleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. I grabbed her phone from the nightstand. I told myself I was just going to check the time. Yeah, that's it. But as I stared at the screen, I felt the urge to unlock it. I knew her password by heart. With a few taps, I was in. What I found shattered me. Text messages with a number I didn't recognize, filled with flirty emojis and suggestive comments. The final nail in my coffin was the message that read, "Can't wait to feel your hands on me again." My heart raced. Who the hell was this? I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I had to know more, so I started scrolling back through the messages. There were dates, specific times they had met up, and my stomach churned as I read. I found a photo of Jessica smiling with a guy in a firefighter uniform. My blood ran cold. I couldn't believe it. My wife, married for 5 years, was cheating on me with a damn firefighter. The next morning, I had to confront her. I had waited for the right moment, but there never is one, is there? I walked into the kitchen, the silence feeling heavier than usual. Jessica was pouring herself a cup of coffee, her back turned to me. I took a deep breath and decided to face this head-on. "Jess, we need to talk," I said. She turned around, a smile faltering on her lips. "What's wrong, babe?" I placed her phone on the table, the screen lit up with the last message I read. "Who is this guy, Jess?" Her expression changed from surprise to something I can't quite describe, defensiveness maybe. "David, it's not what you think," she started, but I didn't want to hear her excuses. This was a moment I had thought about for too long, but nothing could prepare me for the chaos that followed. I wanted answers, and I wanted them now. To be continued. As I stood there, the tension crackled in the air like a live wire. Jessica's eyes darted to the phone and back to me, her expression morphing from shock to something dangerously close to anger. I watched as her facade crumbled in mere seconds. "David, you're overreacting." She blurted out, her voice rising in pitch. "Overreacting? You think this is just a misunderstanding?" I shot back, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "You texted some guy about feeling his hands on you. How is that anything but cheating?" Her response came out as a hasty jumble of words, the kind of excuses that felt rehearsed. "It was just a joke. You know how firefighters are, right? They're just flirty." She waved her hand dismissively, as if trying to brush off the reality of the situation. "I promise it doesn't mean anything." I felt the anger bubbling up inside me like lava threatening to erupt from a volcano. "It doesn't mean anything. You must be kidding. You've been lying to me, Jess. How long has this been going on?" The silence hung between us, thick like fog. She opened her mouth and closed it again, scrambling to find the right words. "It was just a few times," she finally admitted, her tone shifting from defensive to pleading. "I didn't mean for it to happen. You know I love you. Love me." I laughed, though it came out sounding bitter. Love is not sneaking around and texting some guy behind my back. Love is honesty. You've betrayed not just me but the vows we took. Her eyes filled with tears, but they felt like a performance, an actress trying to salvage her role in a play that had gone drastically off script. I'm sorry, David. I really am. I just got caught up in the excitement. You know how life can get mundane. Mundane, that was her excuse. My heart raced, but I quickly gathered my thoughts. Excitement. You think cheating on your husband is exciting. You think lying to my face is some kind of thrill. I took a step back, shaking my head. Maybe you should have thought about that before jumping into bed with him. She looked wounded, but I could see the anger boiling beneath her tears. You don't understand. You've changed too. You're always working and you never pay attention to me anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So that justifies cheating. Is that your excuse? You couldn't communicate. You had to run off to some firefighter and play house. At this point, I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. My world, which had once felt stable, was now nothing but quicksand. What was I supposed to do? My heart screamed for me to walk out, to leave her standing there with her lies, but I needed to know how deep this betrayal ran. Who is he? I demanded, my voice steady but laced with a raw edge. For a moment it looked like she might tell me the truth, but then her expression hardened. You don't need to know. It's over, David. I want to fix this. I love you. But those words felt hollow. Love, what did that even mean anymore? I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. I can't believe you. I need to think, I said finally, feeling my heart break all over again. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, my legs feeling heavy as I made my way to the living room. I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall as the reality of it all washed over me. I felt like I was drifting in a storm, trying to find my way back to shore, but the waves kept crashing down on me. In the days that followed, I was a walking zombie. I worked from home, barely able to focus on anything but the sight of that firefighter's picture burning in my mind. Each time I heard the front door open, my heart would race, expecting her to waltz in with that same betraying smile. But the laughter, it was gone. Jessica tried to engage me in small talk, but I was silent, too filled with anger and betrayal to even acknowledge her. I spent hours thinking about how I wanted to respond. The idea of revenge crept into my mind like an unwelcome guest. I hadn't thought of it this way before, but maybe this was my chance to turn the tables on her betrayal. I wanted to make her feel what I was feeling, every ounce of pain, every bitter drop of regret. But how? I didn't even care if she was remorseful. It was the principle that mattered. The desire to pay her back began to form a plan in my mind. To be continued. As the days turned into a blur of muted conversations and cold silences, I began to map out my plan for revenge. I wasn't a malicious person by nature, but this betrayal had ignited a fire in me that I never knew existed. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, looking down into the abyss of my marriage, and the only way to feel grounded again was to take control of the situation. I started small, nothing drastic at first. It was more about asserting my independence. I began to work out again, something I hadn't done in months. I joined a local gym, started lifting weights, and found a new sense of purpose in my physicality. Each drop of sweat felt like a release, a way to channel my anger into something constructive. I was reclaiming a piece of myself that had been dormant for far too long. Jessica noticed the changes, of course. She commented on my early morning workouts and how I seemed to have more energy. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes each time she caught me looking at her with a mixture of anger and disgust. A part of me wanted to wallow in the pain, but another part, the part that was awakening, craved power and control. I started spending time with friends again, reconnecting with people I had neglected during the years I had devoted to my marriage. It was during one of those catch-up sessions at a bar with a couple of buddies that I met Claire. She was smart, funny, and had an air of confidence that instantly drew me in. We hit it off right away, and for the first time since the betrayal, I felt something other than anger or sadness. It was refreshing to talk to someone who didn't know my history, who didn't view me through the lens of my broken marriage. Claire and I exchanged numbers, and I felt a sense of excitement that had been missing from my life for months. Meanwhile, Jessica was still trying to mend things, showering me with apologies and promises that it would never happen again. She started to text me more often, trying to engage me in conversations about our future. "I love you, David. We can fix this," she kept saying. But her love felt tainted now. Each time she uttered those words, it felt like pouring salt into a wound. One night after she had come home from work, I decided to confront her again. I could see the determination in her eyes as she approached me, but I was ready to put my plan into action. "Jess, you need to understand something," I began, my voice unwavering. "This is not just going to blow over. What you did was unforgivable. You need to face the consequences." "David, please, I'm so sorry for everything. I'll do anything to make it up to you," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her tone. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the next part. "I've been thinking about this a lot. Maybe we need some space. Maybe we need to reconsider what we want moving forward." Her face fell, and for a moment I felt a flicker of remorse. But then I remembered the messages, the lies, the betrayal, and I steeled my heart again. "I think it's best if we separate for a while. I need time to think about what I want, and you might need time to think about what you've done." She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. "No, I've made up my mind. I need to reclaim my life." The look on her face was a mix of shock and disbelief, and I could see her scrambling to find the right words. "You can't be serious. After everything we've built together, you want to throw it all away?" I nodded, feeling a sense of power surge through me. "It's already been thrown away, Jess. You did that. I just want to make sure I'm not left holding the pieces." The next few days were a whirlwind. I packed some of my belongings and moved into a small rental close by. It wasn't much, but it felt like my own space, a sanctuary where I could think and breathe without the weight of Jessica's betrayal hanging over me. I began to embrace this newfound independence, focusing on my workouts, spending time with Claire, and rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage. Jessica reached out multiple times, trying to get me to reconsider. She sent long texts filled with apologies and promises to change, but I wasn't interested in hearing them. I had to stay strong, keep my resolve intact. Each time I resisted her pleas, I felt more empowered, like I was taking back control of my life. But my plan for revenge was far from complete. I wanted to make sure Jessica felt what I felt. I needed to show her that her actions had consequences, and in doing so I would find my own healing. To be continued. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself in a strange limbo. My relationship with Jessica was now a ghost, haunting the spaces we had once shared. Moving into my own place felt liberating, but it also came with its own set of challenges. I had to relearn how to be alone, to enjoy my own company without the crutch of a marriage that had become toxic. Claire and I began spending more time together. She was a breath of fresh air, someone who made me laugh and reminded me that life could be fun again. We would go out for drinks, binge-watch shows, and even hit the gym together. Each time we were together, I could feel the weight of my past lifting just a little more. I was starting to feel like myself again, but an undercurrent of anger still churned inside me, a desire for revenge that I couldn't shake. One night, after an evening of laughter and drinks with Claire, I found myself staring at my phone, contemplating the next step. I had to do something big. I wanted Jessica to feel the sting of her actions, to understand the depth of her betrayal in a way that words alone couldn't convey. I had a plan. I would escalate the situation with Claire, but in a way that was calculated and intentional. I wanted to make Jessica see me moving on, thriving without her, living a life that she would never have again. I decided to post pictures of Claire and me on social media, showcasing our time together, out at restaurants, hiking, laughing, the works. I knew Jessica was still following my every move online, and I wanted to ensure that she felt the impact of my newfound happiness. It was a Saturday when I kicked off my plan. Claire and I went out to a trendy new rooftop bar that had just opened downtown. The sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink, and I couldn't help but feel exhilarated. We laughed over cocktails and shared stories about our lives, each moment solidifying the connection we were building. As the night wore on, I took a few candid photos of us together, arms around each other, smiles wide. Later, I posted the photos on social media with a cheeky caption that read, "New adventures on the horizon, living my best life." Within minutes, the notifications began to roll in. Friends and acquaintances liked the pictures, and comments flooded in, praising how happy I looked. I didn't care about their responses, though. I just wanted Jessica to see it. I wanted her to feel like she had lost something valuable, something that she could never reclaim. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of messages from Jessica. She was clearly unsettled, her texts ranging from confusion to desperate pleas. "David, what's going on? Who is this girl?" she asked in a text that felt charged with a mixture of jealousy and fear. I took my time responding, letting her stew for a bit. When I finally did, I gave her just enough to fuel her anger without revealing too much. "Just someone who appreciates me, Jess. You should try it sometime." For the next few days, Jessica kept trying to reach out. She called and texted asking to meet up to talk about us. But each time I found some excuse. I was busy, or I had plans, or I just didn't feel like discussing things anymore. The more I ignored her, the more I could feel my own sense of empowerment growing. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. One afternoon, I received a call from a mutual friend of ours, Mark. He had been close to both Jessica and me and had seen my posts. "Hey man, just wanted to check in. Jessica's been really upset about the photos," he said, sounding a bit concerned. "Good," I replied bluntly, "she should be." Mark paused. "You know she's been trying to reach you. This is really tearing her apart. Are you sure you want to do this?" I felt a surge of anger. She chose to cheat. She made her bed and now she has to lie in it. "I'm done being the nice guy. Just think about it, okay?" Mark said cautiously before hanging up. After that conversation, I was more determined than ever to see my plan through. I needed to make sure Jessica fully understood that she had lost me forever, so I continued posting. More pictures with Claire, more adventurous outings, and even a few hints at deeper feelings, all while leaving out the details of our budding relationship. Each time I posted, I could feel the weight lifting more and more. I was reclaiming my life, and with each passing day, I felt less like a victim and more like a man who had taken control of his destiny. The thrill of living unapologetically filled my veins like adrenaline. But as I reveled in my newfound freedom, I knew the confrontation with Jessica was inevitable. I had to face her sooner or later, and I could only imagine the storm that would follow. To be continued. The weeks rolled on and my life had transformed into something I barely recognized, full of laughter, adventure, and the thrill of new beginnings with Claire. But as my happiness blossomed, the inevitable confrontation with Jessica loomed over me like a dark cloud, waiting to unleash its storm. It happened on a Tuesday evening. I was at home, relaxing after a workout when my phone buzzed. It was a text, but not from Claire. It was from Jessica. "We need to talk. Can we meet?" The weight of her words sent a jolt through me. I had anticipated this moment but wasn't sure how I would feel when it finally arrived. I hesitated for only a second before responding, agreeing to meet at a nearby coffee shop. When I arrived, Jessica was already seated at a corner table, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. The expression on her face was a mixture of anger and desperation, and I could sense the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice steady but strained. "Sure," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. She wasted no time. "I've seen your posts. You're moving on, aren't you?" "Seems like you've been keeping up," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "David, this isn't a joke. I messed up, I know that. But I can't just stand by and watch you live this perfect life while I'm here falling apart." Her eyes pleaded with me, but I stood firm. "I didn't ask you to cheat on me, Jess. You made your choices. You brought this on yourself." Her expression twisted with frustration. "You don't understand. I'm trying to explain myself. I was unhappy and I made a horrible mistake, but I want to fix things. I love you." The words hung heavy in the air, but they felt hollow to me. Love. Love is built on trust and honesty. You shattered that, and now you want me to believe it's all going to magically fix itself. I don't think so. She opened her mouth to respond, her words spilling out in a desperate torrent. "I thought we had something special. We do. I thought we could work through this together. I never meant for it to go this far." Then why didn't you talk to me? I challenged. Why didn't you come to me before you decided to stray? You destroyed everything we built together. Jessica looked defeated, her shoulders slumped as she stared down into her coffee cup. I don't have all the answers, David. I know I messed up, but I want to make it right. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words but knowing they couldn't erase what had happened. It's too late for that, Jess. I'm done. I'm moving on, and there's nothing you can say to change my mind. For a brief moment, I saw vulnerability in her eyes and something inside me twisted with a hint of sympathy. But I quickly pushed that feeling aside, reminding myself of the pain she'd caused. You had your chance, and you chose someone else. We sat in silence for a moment, the tension palpable. It was clear that this was a moment of reckoning for both of us. I had expected her to lash out, to cry, to beg, but instead she just looked defeated. Finally, she whispered, "I just wish I could take it all back. I never wanted to hurt you." "I wish you had thought about that before you cheated," I replied, my voice steady. Jessica's shoulders shook as she fought back tears. "I don't want to lose you, David." "I'm already gone," I said, rising from my seat. I knew I had to leave before I let her words sway me. "Take care of yourself, Jess." I walked out of that coffee shop feeling a mix of emotions, relief, sadness, and a strange sense of closure. I had faced her, confronted the betrayal, and stood my ground. Now it was time to look forward. As I stepped out into the cool evening air, the weight on my shoulders felt lighter than it had in months. I had finally taken a stand for myself, and it felt good. I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Claire had been supportive throughout this entire ordeal, and after that meeting with Jessica, I felt an urge to reach out to her. I texted, "Hey, you free to grab dinner tonight? I could use some company." Her response was immediate. "Absolutely. Can't wait to hear all about it." As I drove to the restaurant, I felt a sense of excitement bubbling inside me. I was moving on, truly moving on. I could finally embrace my future without the shackles of my past weighing me down. But as I sat across from Claire, laughter flowing freely and the spark of new beginnings igniting, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jessica would be back. The lingering thought of her desperation echoed in my mind. I had no idea how she would react to my new life, but I was ready for whatever came next. To be continued. Dinner with Claire was everything I needed after that tumultuous confrontation with Jessica. We laughed over shared plates, our conversation flowing effortlessly, and I felt a sense of normalcy returning to my life. I could see the warmth in Claire's eyes as we talked, and for the first time in a long while I felt genuinely happy. As we sat there, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had brought me to this moment. The pain, the betrayal, and the struggle to reclaim my life had all been part of a journey that was shaping me into someone stronger. I realized that I had not just lost a partner, I had also found myself again. But just as I was beginning to settle into this new chapter, Jessica sprang back into my life in a way I hadn't expected. It was a few days later when I got a call from Mark, our mutual friend. "Hey man, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Jessica's been talking to a therapist and has been trying to make sense of everything. She's really struggling," he said, his tone a mix of concern and sympathy. "Honestly, I'm not surprised," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "She made her choices, Mark. She needs to deal with the fallout." I know, but she's been saying some things that make me think she really regrets what happened. Maybe there's a chance for closure." I sighed heavily, feeling the weight of the conversation. "I appreciate you letting me know, but I'm not interested in reopening that door. I've moved on." "Just think about it," Mark urged. "You may want to hear her out." "Mark," I interrupted firmly, "I've already heard enough. I need to focus on my own life now. I have no desire to go back to that." After the call ended, I felt a rush of emotions. I was glad that Jessica was seeking help, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she might try to pull me back in. I had to stay strong. I had worked too hard to reclaim my life to let her back in. In the following days, I kept busy with work, workouts, and my growing relationship with Claire. We shared more adventures together, each moment reinforcing that sense of liberation I had been craving. But I couldn't help but wonder if Jessica would try to contact me again. Then one evening my phone buzzed with a familiar name, Jessica. My stomach dropped as I hesitated before opening the message. David, can we please talk? I've been doing a lot of thinking. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the inevitable confrontation. I replied, I think we've said everything we needed to say, Jess. I've moved on, you should too. She responded quickly, I understand, but I really want to apologize. I've been working on myself. Can we at least meet to talk, just to clear the air? I stared at my screen, torn between the desire to put this chapter behind me and the part of me that wanted to hear her out, just to understand. But I shook my head, pushing those feelings aside. No, Jess, I wish you well, but I need to focus on my future. I can't go back. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment I thought about the years we had spent together, the love that had once been so vibrant. But I quickly reminded myself of the pain and betrayal, the emotional turmoil that had followed. I had to stay true to my path. In the days that followed, Jessica continued to reach out, sending messages filled with apologies and reminders of our past. But I remained steadfast, not allowing myself to be drawn back into her world. I was building something new, and I wouldn't let the past taint my future. As spring transitioned into summer, my life continued to flourish. Claire and I grew closer, and I found myself genuinely falling for her. One afternoon, as we strolled through a sun-drenched park, I realized that I was finally able to let go of the anger and hurt. I was no longer defined by Jessica's betrayal. One day, as I sat with Claire on a bench, I turned to her, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Thank you for being in my life, I said softly. You've helped me more than you know. Claire smiled, her eyes sparkling. I'm just glad you're happy, David. You deserve it after everything you've been through. In that moment, I understood that healing takes time, but it also takes courage. I had faced my demons, confronted the pain, and emerged on the other side stronger and more resilient. Jessica's actions would no longer control my narrative. I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't about making someone else feel pain. It's about finding your own happiness and moving forward. And as I took Claire's hand, I knew I was finally ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited me in the future. The journey was far from easy, but it was mine, and I was determined to make the most of it.